Previously on the show, since Damon and Enzo disappeared from the vault in the armory, they've become slaves to a demon, killing humans left and right. Bonnie figured out the identity of the demon based on clues Enzo left behind. Alaric and Georgie discovered an artifact bearing the same symbol Georgie had tattooed on her body. Alaric suspected the artifact was linked to the sealing of the siren. Sybil. Sybil realized that Damon and Enzo's connection to Bonnie was the main reason they hadn't fully submitted to her. So, Sybil devised a new plan. She forced Enzo and Damon to fight to the death, while Bonnie was made to choose between the two men. The school's storage room became the battleground for Damon and Enzo's duel, with Stefan caught in the middle, desperately trying to stop them. Instead, he was attacked by both Damon and Enzo. Chaos erupted between the three men. On the other side, Caroline and Bonnie were rushing to the duel arena. Bonnie was terrified that Damon and Enzo would fight to the death, knowing Stefan held the key to deciding who would live and who would die, and that Stefan would inevitably choose Damon. This meant Enzo was as good as dead. Sybil, severely wounded, woke up. Even with her body covered in cuts, her seductive allure was undeniable. To repair her body, she saw the passing humans as nothing more than meals. Just as Bonnie had feared, when Stefan couldn't stop the fight between Damon and Enzo, he was forced to side with his brother. That's why Damon had called Stefan there. As Stefan was about to deliver the fatal blow to Enzo, Caroline arrived first. She had promised Bonnie she would stop Stefan. Just as Caroline and Stefan were locked in their argument, Damon and Enzo snapped their necks. With no hesitation, Damon and Enzo resumed their fight to the death. With his humanity switched off, Damon had the upper hand. He drove his hand into Enzo's chest, ready to tear out his heart. At the critical moment, Bonnie arrived. She begged Damon to fight Sybil's control. Damon snapped back to reality, his face stricken with pain. But Sybil arrived right after. Just as Damon was about to reach Enzo's heart, Bonnie made her choice. She chose to save Enzo. Just when Damon thought his own death was imminent, the tables turned. Sybil unexpectedly changed her mind.
So Bonnie can't live without Enzo, and clearly Stefan can't live without Damon. But nobody's bothered to ask me what I want.
Enzo, to protect Bonnie, obeyed Sybil's command and turned off his humanity, pledging his loyalty to her. But after Enzo turned off his humanity, Sybil changed her mind and suggested getting rid of Bonnie, and both Damon and Enzo, with their humanity switched off, had no objections.
10, 9. Enzo, you sure you don't mind if Damon rips your girlfriend to shreds?
Bonnie went straight to the parking lot and finally threw herself into Damon's arms. At Bonnie's anguished cries, Damon appeared to snap back to his senses. He released Bonnie, but what he said next made her heart freeze.
Neck snap, heart rip, or just good old-fashioned tear your throat out.
Alaric arrived like a knight, bringing with him the artifact capable of subduing Sybil. The tuning fork produced a noise that sent Sybil into a fit of screaming, clutching her head in pain. Enzo, who was about to attack, had his neck broken by Stefan. All of this was witnessed by Georgie. Just when everyone thought Sybil had been captured and it was all over, Damon announced that the work Sybil had him do was only just beginning. With that, he got into his car and drove away. Sybil was locked up in the armory. Though she had lost her freedom, she was still able to remotely control Damon's mind and alter his memories. Damon remembered his time trapped in the prison world, where he made pancakes for his best friend every day. Sybil wanted to sever all of Damon's ties, turning him into a despised outcast, hated by everyone. Damon received a command and lay down on the road to force Tyler to stop. Tyler had already been tipped off by his companions and was ready to capture Damon, but Damon struck first. Tyler desperately tried to reason with Damon. When he saw he couldn't get through to him, he urged Damon to hurry up and finish him off.
Or maybe this will be the thing that wakes you up. And then maybe both our lives will be worth something at the end of it all. So go ahead. Do it. Tear me apart.
Damon silently turned to leave, and Tyler let out a long breath. But Sybil intervened from afar, whispering seductively in Damon's mind, urging him to tear Tyler apart. The final villain of the Vampire Diaries has finally emerged. He's the very first psychic in history, the man who created hell, the one myth calls Satan, and the ruler of hell. Thousands of years ago, in an unknown village, there lived a man named Arcadius, known affectionately by the villagers as Cade. Cade had the ability to read minds, always able to sense everyone's troubles and eagerly offer his help. However, this very power brought disaster upon him. Cade discovered that the village elder harbored impure thoughts toward a young girl. Trying to help, Cade urged the elder to correct his mindset, but this only led to his own death. The villagers, afraid of Cade's power, branded him a demon. After Sybil was captured by Stefan and the others, under interrogation from Stefan and Alaric, she revealed the origins of the sirens. Long ago, there was a girl who, like Cade, was a psychic with the ability to read minds. Her people saw her as a freak and exiled her to a remote, desolate island. On this island, she discovered another girl who had been through the same ordeal. They were both psychics, seen as outcasts by the world, and with no one else to rely on, they became sisters. Stefan and Alaric were horrified. One siren was already bad enough, and now there was another one out there. They anxiously asked about the identity of this second siren. Sybil smirked and said, "You've already met her." Meanwhile, Georgie snuck into Alaric's house, intending to steal the ancient book. But she was caught by the nanny, Seline. Georgie lied, claiming she was there to grab a book for her teacher. Seline saw through the lie and insisted on calling Alaric.
Really wouldn't do that if I were you.
Elsewhere, Damon arrived at an auto repair shop. Sybil's mission for him was to find a man named Peter. Peter was the owner of the repair shop. Damon learned from the employee Lou that Peter had stepped out and would be back shortly. Damon, who had nothing to do, launched a trial against Lou. Lou had murdered his wife and staged it as an accident, so Damon sentenced him to death by fire. When Peter returned, he was horrified by the scene before him. Damon threatened Peter, demanding he hand over his family's heirloom. Peter was confused. As for the family heirloom, his late grandmother had left behind a mysterious box, but only his son knew its whereabouts. So, Damon ordered Peter to call his son over. While waiting, Damon noticed Peter's watch, and to his surprise, it contained vervain, meaning Peter had never been compelled. Peter was still full of doubts, and an angry Damon stabbed him. At that moment, Matt showed up. It turned out Peter was Matt's father. Matt didn't have time to explain. He hurried to heal his father with Damon's blood. At the armory, Alaric received a phone call from Seline. He learned that Georgie had stolen the ancient book. Just then, a figure dashed toward the vault. Alaric grabbed a knife and gave chase, only to realize it was a trap. Georgie had locked him inside the vault. Meanwhile, Sybil continued telling Stefan her story. Whenever a ship passed by, Sybil and her sister would use mind control to call for help. But the waters around the island were filled with treacherous reefs, and every ship that approached was wrecked. The kind-hearted younger sister wept for the sailors who perished, but the older sister wasn't surprised, as this wasn't her first time calling for help. The younger sister would rather die on the island than continue bringing harm to passing sailors, so the older sister reluctantly agreed. On the other side of the island, there was land occupied by wild boars, and the older sister would often go hunting there. But one day, the younger sister discovered that there were no wild boars on that side of the island. Her older sister had been using mind control on the sailors by herself.
And so an innocent girl became a monster, all because her older sibling forced her to adopt her lifestyle, even if it meant killing and eating men to stay alive.
Sybil then asked Stefan, "Which girl are you more like?" But Stefan knew Sybil was definitely the evil sister. At that moment, Georgie appeared and knocked Stefan unconscious. Could she be the other siren? The siren sisters, once innocent angels, had turned into demons who devoured men. Eventually, they caught the attention of Satan and were taken as his slaves. In Sybil's memories, Stefan learned the truth. Sybil hadn't attacked Stefan's mind the way she had with Damon. She told Stefan, "He has different plans for you." Sybil then led Stefan to a cave, filled with piles of bones from all the sailors the siren sisters had eaten over the years. It turned out Sybil was actually the kind-hearted younger sister. Her older sister had been tricking her into eating humans, And it wasn't until Sybil discovered the cave that she realized the truth. Sybil asked Stefan again, "Is your soul more like the evil older sister, or the good younger one?" Meanwhile, Matt was interrogating Damon, demanding to know why he had hurt his father. Damon threatened Matt, saying that if he didn't act fast, Tyler would bleed out and die. Matt immediately set off to save him. Damon, meanwhile, knocked over a metal shelf and found a rusted iron ball. Could this be the treasure Sybil was after? Trapped in the vault, Alaric began to suspect that Georgie was the other siren. He knew he had to escape and warn his friends, but to find the secret passage in the basement, he would need to block out all sight and sound. In a desperate move, Alaric stabbed himself in the ear, rupturing his eardrum. In the vision, a figure walked into the cave, and the true identity of the other siren was finally revealed. Stefan stared in shock at the person who had arrived. The other siren was none other than Alaric's nanny, Seline. At the same time, Seline was at home, putting the twins to bed when Georgie called her. It turned out that Seline had been controlling Georgie, and trapping Alaric was her idea. Seline planned to meet Georgie, but the twins insisted she tell them a bedtime story. Now that Stefan knew Celine's true identity, he tried to warn Alaric. But Sybil had no intention of letting Stefan wake up with his memory intact. When Stefan woke up, he found Sybil still locked in her cell. He could only remember the story about the Siren sisters eating sailors but had forgotten Celine's identity. Curious, Stefan asked why Sybil hadn't escaped. Sybil once again posed the question, "Is your soul more like the evil sister or the good one?"
Or are you the monster who sealed his brother's fate the day you forced him to turn into a vampire? Who doomed his brother to an eternity of misery because you were afraid of being alone?
Sybil's analysis revealed that the Salvatore brothers and the Siren sisters were indeed very similar. Finally, Stefan was ready to answer the question.
Both?
His answer struck a chord with Sybil. Humans are full of contradictions. Even though she had once been good, her belly was now full of corpses and blood. Back when Sybil discovered the truth about the boar meat, she was so ashamed that she threw herself off a cliff. Her sister prayed desperately to save her, but God didn't answer her. Instead, it was the Lord of Hell, Cade, who responded. But his mercy came with a price. From that moment on, the Siren sisters became Cade's slaves, harvesting the souls of the wicked and offering them to him. Thousands of years ago, when Cade was burned at the stake by the villagers, he used his immense psychic power to create his own world, a world that became the final destination for all evil souls. That's why it was called Hell, and Cade fed on those souls. Sybil told Stefan, "Cade is very interested in you." Stefan then learned why Damon didn't resist, because he had already seen Hell, and no one could defy Cade. Meanwhile, on the road, Matt explained the existence of vampires to his father. When they finally found Tyler, they realized he had already been dead for some time. Damon had simply made up an excuse to get him to leave. Tyler, who had spent his life either getting beaten or running away, had ultimately died at the hands of one of his own. Matt was devastated. Seline found Georgie and learned that her sister Sybil refused to accept her goodwill. This didn't surprise Seline, but her plan didn't require her sister's help. With a sinister smile, Seline asked Georgie to deliver a message. Then she grabbed Georgie by the throat.
Send Cade my regards.
Georgie's soul left her body and saw Seline devouring her corpse, ignoring Georgie's curses. A fierce wind rose, and Georgie's soul was sucked into hell, just like Catherine's soul had disappeared before. Tyler, the werewolf in the Vampire Diaries, was undoubtedly a love-hate character. He rarely had shining moments, was relentlessly beaten by Klaus, but never surrendered. After a life on the run, Tyler always found a way to survive. Yet in the end, he fell in his hometown, dying at the hands of his own companions. In truth, Tyler didn't need to return, but he did so without hesitation. On a quiet morning, everyone received a phone call from Matt. The news of Tyler's death sent shockwaves through the group, and they all grieved deeply as they prepared to attend his funeral. Before leaving, Alaric entrusted his twin daughters to the care of their nanny, Seline, unaware that Seline was the other evil siren. Tyler's death weighed heavily on Stefan, and he felt deep disappointment in his brother. They needed to take action before someone else died. With Enzo's humanity switched off, Bonnie had been keeping him captive at home. She tried everything to bring Enzo's humanity back, but her words had no effect. Enzo used sweet talk to trick Bonnie into cutting the ropes. He rushed to the door only to be stopped by an invisible force. Could Bonnie have regained her magic? Not exactly. Bonnie had borrowed an artifact from the armory, called the imprisoning flames. No supernatural creature could escape the circle of fire, and only the one who ignited it could extinguish it. Tyler's death, at its root, was caused by Sybil. To punish Sybil, Alaric ordered his assistant Dorian to continuously strike the tuning fork while researching its frequencies. He also tasked Dorian with finding Georgie. Later, Stefan and the others carried Tyler's coffin to the cemetery, but found 4 extra graves. This was Damon's doing. He had not only killed Tyler, but was now flaunting his actions at the funeral. Stefan broke a shovel in half, ready for a fight. But Damon was quicker, seizing Matt and forcing his blood down Matt's throat, leaving the others too afraid to move. Damon began ripping open old wounds, one by one. Damon is working hard to become the villain that everyone hates, and the mastermind behind it all is Sybil. After burying Tyler, Caroline received a distress call from Bonnie. Bonnie wanted to know how Caroline had regained her humanity. Caroline told her, "Show Enzo your love." Bonnie's face lit up with determination, ready to go all in for one final battle. After Bonnie hung up the phone, the evil Enzo came over to mock her, but Bonnie ignored him and walked away. Damon secretly snuck into the armory and found Sybil, who was imprisoned. Tyler's death and everyone's hatred had shaken him. He no longer wanted to be Sybil's puppet, but Sybil sneered at him. "You've done too much evil. There's no turning back." While sorting through Tyler's belongings, Matt found a letter Tyler had left for him. It turned out Tyler had been secretly investigating the identity of the other siren and had managed to obtain a portrait of Seline. Since Matt had never been to Alaric's house and hadn't met Seline, he didn't realize who she was. At that moment, Seline was taking the twins on an outing. After all this time, her plan was finally falling into place. She was ready to make her move on the twins. A confused Damon left the armory and found Stefan at an amusement park. Damon, looking conflicted and lost, hoped his brother could help him. Damon longed to return to his friends, but was too afraid to defy Sybil, knowing that behind her was the Lord of Hell, Cade. Damon knew he was destined for hell, and serving Cade seemed like the only way to survive. Stefan pleaded with his brother, telling him that without emotions, living was no better than being a walking corpse.
Come home with me.
When Damon refused, Stefan shot him, only to provoke Damon's anger. Just in time, Caroline knocked Damon out with vervain. Stefan bound his brother in chains and sealed him inside the family crypt. Only by eliminating Sybil would he free Damon. Bonnie plans to use love to touch Enzo and awaken the humanity buried deep within him. Enzo mocked Bonnie, telling her to stop wasting her time. But to his surprise, Bonnie set the house on fire, vowing she wouldn't leave until Enzo regained his humanity. Bonnie was risking her life to save him. Enzo pretended not to care, continuing to taunt her. But no matter what Enzo said, Bonnie responded with only one thing: "I will never leave you." As Bonnie began to suffocate and passed out, Enzo finally snapped out of it. He looked around, growing increasingly anxious. When Bonnie woke up, she found herself thrown out of the fire, while Enzo remained trapped inside. He had already regained his humanity.
You love me more than anyone. It's enough.
Just as Enzo was about to be engulfed by the flames again, Bonnie rushed back inside and pressed her palm to extinguish the magical candle. At that same moment, Enzo grabbed Bonnie and carried her out of the burning house. Meanwhile, Seline tricked the Gemini Coven into performing a fire ritual for a little goldfish, but hidden beneath was Georgie's body. This is the sacrifice that Seline offered to Cade. Could it be that Seline intends to groom the twins to become successors to her and her sister? Later, police discovered Georgie's charred body, and Dorian was called in to identify her. After the noise of the tuning fork stopped, Sybil in the cell used magic to shatter the bulletproof glass through the crack left by Damon, and the tuning fork fell into her hands. At that moment, Stefan gathered everyone at the amusement park, planning to hold a special funeral for Tyler. He believed that Tyler would want everyone to live happily. While everyone enjoyed themselves, unaware that Sybil had released the sealed Damon, he had completely turned to evil. After Matt returned, he was busy dealing with various emergencies, leaving him no time to catch up with his friends. Caroline shared photos of her 2 daughters with him. The moment Matt saw Seline, his expression changed. He urged Caroline to hurry home. Seline was the other siren. Caroline and Alaric rushed home, only to find the twins were gone. From the twins' drawings, it was clear that Seline had been subtly indoctrinating them to follow Cade. So, what is Seline's true intention in taking the twins? And what fate awaits Damon?